Right, this is actually part 2. That's never happened before. Because when I reach, well, the file store is filled up, it normally makes a boop. It didn't. It just turned off. So missed a little chunk of my unplanned, dull little monologue. So the first one has got to upload, and then I've got to take it off the computer, which is why I have to have my laptop charged up. And then if I want to record something else, but I got to stop that. I got to get off this weekend. I'm going to get everything double, treble backed up. And yes, I managed to do a little bit of emotional extortion from a Christian, and I've got a great big 4 terabyte backup thingamajig. Right, to the point. I can't really remember what I was saying, but so this is part 2, because then I got a little bit of a part 3. The most important thing I'll remember, yes, there's this double-edged sword which has only got one edge left, really, I think. None of my business, actually, ultimately, but yeah, I used to think I did say this bit and it got lost. Not lost. The camera turned off and I thought it was still recording. Right. I used to think that culture is such a pretentious word. Just great film. Great film. I went to see The Killing Fields when it came out in the Coronet in Notting Hill. And it changed me. I walked out of that film, that cinema, fair dinkum. No, I don't name drop, but Bruce was one of my most regular customers in my little difficult book sourcing shop for his pathetic Jack the Ripper book. Oh, God, why do people get into such... it's almost perverted. Anyway, he's forgiven everything because Killing Fields was a magnificent film. I walked out thinking, my God, I've had a brown man brought to me as an incredible, brave, wonderful human being. Truly. And I'm just saying that like in wokey land. No, it's like, God, I couldn't possibly be as brave and as good and as useful to his society as that little brown man. Dithpran, I still remember his name. He died, I think, about 3 years ago. Yeah, Bruce bought that, and fair dinkum. Culture, good books, more than good film, and blah, blah, blah. I used to think that they do enhance people. I don't think the British will allow that anymore. They're too busy butterflying here and there in their head, and now they think that they've got a smartphone, they can dominate the world. Although they'll never say that. They'll also know I don't do that, but they do that. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. It's so boring. So it's just about put stuff out. Now, I have a personal reason to put something out that maybe one day, like, gets a 1 star on some Guardian review, except the Guardian just became... Emily should actually kill her father. Although, of course, he's the editor of Prospect now, which is even more tragic. I'm a pacifist, so that was a joke. Is it Emily? How to Kill Your Father. Magnificent book. I mean, yes, in fact, there you go. I read that a year ago, and it's like, no, 2 years ago. And it's like brought home to me the tragedy. There's a tragedy happened in Britain. That is the most magnificent piece of satire, worthy of... That's as good as... Well, it was all changed by Start the Week. Is it Start the Week? No, that was the week that was. It's the most magnificent bit of satire. And yet, the people, the bought Bohemians, those who were at Blackbush or whatever, they didn't celebrate it as thank God, the Chatterati have still got a sense of humour and are still able to be grown up. I think it's a very important moment in British history. Anyway, so I just got stuff to put out. Most of which, yes, which is all yes. Every single word in a Pilger manner, has got double backup accreditation. Accreditation's the wrong word. Can be cross-referred. Nobody can touch me for libel or anything like that. Well, I'm not really in that business. I'm not interested in Britain. It's just pure, as I said, fait accompli. But you see, fait accompli is the best thing that ever happened to people. I realised, 13, 14 years ago, I was staying somewhere in a camper van and small caravan, which I really didn't want to be at. And over about a year or two, it's like, oh God, I don't want to be here. But then I realised that accepting a really negative thing is the best thing for you, but there's a kind of second level to it, which is not making the most out of in some be positive. I mean, be positive is the worst thing that's ever come along as mantra in this awful society. They didn't do that in Europe unless they're lost to some stupid new age cult thinking. Having to stay somewhere you don't want to stay. It's the best thing for you. I've travelled the world. I've been to even wonderful. The best place I've ever been to is Bolivia. That's not good for you. None of it. None of that's good for you. What's actually good for you? Oh, it's good to broaden your mind and see other people's and get some perspective on people's or places or societies which are still a little bit more real, and don't say stupid things like everybody in Britain. It's just become a joke. It's to make themselves look good. Oh, we have community. No. Community as well. Yet again, I may do a bit of a legal case, which we'll see. I don't. No. I'm not going to say anything. I hope, because it's so easy. Community is doing really hard stuff with people in a mess that hurt you, that you end up getting flack, etc. I've done it loads of times before. I'm not a hero. It's just like, because there's a sort of slight mutual benefit. Not now. I don't need to do these anymore. But when I first started to do those, it's like, I need to learn this legal system in Britain more, because it may be used against me in the future. And I'm still terrified of it, even in 2006. So that's like learning, doing something whereby somebody categorically can't get any help from anybody else. All lawyers connected with, a lot of criminal lawyers are absolutely scurrilous, scandalous, drunken joke. But all the rest of the lawyers are just a disaster. So if you're doing something, you're not harming somebody because they can't get any help at all, none. It's impossible. It is literally impossible. So if even if you don't feel entirely equipped to do it fantastically, genuinely in your soul, and you tell them as well, you learn as you're going along. So then, in fact, you do become better equipped later on, and you don't do any harm because they can't get anybody anyway. So I spent 10 years sort of part-time-ish doing that. It was very, 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 my head was in it most of the time. But yes, this fait accompli thing, having to stay somewhere you don't want to be, which has been the case for me for 25 years, not accepting it and being positive, no. Sort of being in a state of, oh, well, I've got to be here. It frees you up to actually be curious about the actual truth of your society, and that is a service to future generations. It's not a service to carry on this dreadful, our communities are lovely. And it's just basically a Glastonburyisation of everything. In other words, go to some event or gathering or festival. To me, the word festival is the most poisonous word. There's a festival of everything, a festival of Pixie fans, as in Pixies, not the Pixies, who were a good band. A festival of this, festival of that, festival of the other. To gather and be in a slightly altered state of oh, we're all doing something useful here and we have community for this 2 days. And we're not going to complain about the fact that the toilets are whatever. We're a community. That's just fake. It's just terrible. And I think it's taken over that mentality. Everything deep down, the default position of all the younger people, even my age group, has become, oh, there are magnificent little functional communities. No, there aren't. No. A community is doing something really, 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 really hard over a period of time because you together can do it, even though you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. I never want to help anybody because it's never any fun. But you don't want to do it, but you can do it, and you just may be doing something that serves I only think in regions, your 10-kilometre region, by just maybe that somebody who was heading for oblivion may not quite go to oblivion, and one day maybe, well, when you're in the countryside, the real rural areas, this isn't, but maybe one day they'll be there to give you a service back when you need it. Nobody's ever been there for me to do that. Because I happen to be mainly serving people who either have suffered terrible injustice innocently with their families, and sometimes some subsidiary or connected sort of side issues in the other parts of the justice system. And they're so smashed by it all they can't ever give you anything back. Or sometimes those, because I had to deal in the former role with those who did have, not very often, but often enough, the terrible afflictions, the worst being drink or drugs. So I do know how they need to move forward. And anyway, I've had enough people inadvertently with those problems in my life. You can never get anything back. Never. And even nobody says, oh, well done you, because they're all terrified. Everybody else is terrified of these people in these messes. That's Britain. Britain's the number one fake society in the world. They're terrified. When they're actually aware that somebody in the community has got a real problem that is going to make them a possible suicide case or a possible going crazy. I had a woman that I looked after for about a year in court situation, which was pretty terrible. Now, she did have some problems, but they were not so bad that her son shouldn't be with her. That was the finding of the case. But she was so angry, upset. One day we were driving back from the court in Merthyr Tydfil, and I didn't have a vehicle on the road, and we were in her vehicle, and she just expressed her anger as 3 women, no men have ever done this, 3 women have done this to me, expressed her anger with her right foot on her accelerator and got up to 80 miles an hour, going in rage. Excuse me, love, this is a lethal weapon that you're expressing your anger with. Yes, people are terrified of people in bad situations, so they don't actually ever say, well done you. Never. We're a weird society. Right, that was part 2. But the most important thing is, yes, I got all sorts of stories, not about that stuff, because that stuff's actually pretty boring. Other stuff that's much more interesting. Oh, yes, give me your simple stories. They're coming up. I've got too many. They need to be in boxes, metaphorical boxes connected to this issue, that issue, that issue. And they will come out bit by bit, merely for entertainment, because I expect nothing of anybody in this bizarre society.